music to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor propose the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Machine Pun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hey there, welcome to the Punch Show, and thanks for joining me. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was my first time ever making my Thanksgiving dinner entirely with fresh milled flour. So I made some sourdough bread a few weeks ago, and then I dried it out, and then I used that to make sourdough stuffing. And I'm telling you, it was good. It was really, really good. So if you haven't tried cooking with fresh milled flour, just want to give that a shout out. And I did a little whiteboard explainer video on why it's good. And there's some links in there that if you want to try it, you can click on. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about what's going on in the news. The first thing I want to talk about is the DC shooter, which has first of all, you know, it's a tragedy. There's a woman that is dead, another man that is, you know, struggling for his life, and that's a tragedy. And there's another tragedy, which is this man that did the shooting, what happened to him. And I think that there's this kind of drive to turn this man into a terrorist, like especially from the Trump administration. They keep talking about, oh, he was radicalized here, and it's like, who was radicalized by who? What does radicalized mean? Because what I'm hearing is that he was holed up in a room by himself, going on these long drives by himself. Who's doing the radicalizing? I think what happened is he was a 16-year-old kid when he got recruited by the CIA, sent on these violent missions that even our own soldiers are, struggled to come back from. They struggle with PTSD afterward, and we don't give these people any mental health counseling like we give our soldiers mental health counseling. But these people that fought for our side in the Afghan war, who risked their lives and risked their families' lives, because if it had come out that they were fighting for us, their families could have, been targeted. And this man went through some stuff, and he came home, or he came here, and he kind of, maybe PTSD or whatever, and he went nuts, and he shot people. And rather than look at it from what can we do to stop it from happening again, we're looking at it from a position of blame. And I feel like sometimes we get so political about everything that we can't just say, maybe this is not a political thing. Maybe this is just a human thing. Maybe somebody exposed to that much violence actually has, like legitimate mental issues that need to be treated. Maybe because we're not looking at it that way, were ignoring things, ignoring red flags. Like there were red flags, this guy was losing it. And it's not like those red flags were a vetting issue. Those red flags were a medical care issue. He should have been treated when those flags came up. But nope, we got to make it about vetting and terrorism and stuff like that. And so now, you've got Donald Trump just wants to make it illegal for anybody that has pigment to get asylum. He's got 19 nations that now we've got to review everybody. Guess what all 19 nations have in common? If you guess they're all majority people of color, then you're right. Stop telling me Donald Trump isn't a racist. Every day he's doing something racist. This is racist. Oh, one person of color attacked somebody, therefore everybody that is a person of color deserves to die or whatever. Anyway, I just want to say about that. Can we please look at this and consider maybe some of these people that were our allies in Afghanistan need mental health help? Need some counseling? Is that so hard? So the second thing I want to talk about is Venezuela. I don't have much to say on this, other than it seems like there's this false dichotomy being presented, where it's either we invade Venezuela or Mercado, resigns, or people are against Mercado. He's got, he's not very popular there right now. He's got 20% popularity. That doesn't mean we can invade him. There's less support for a U.S. invasion even than there is of Mercado. We can't just go around. This is why we're here. So much of why we're here is the U.S. intervening in South American politics and deciding who gets to rule and who doesn't. We have averaged about every 2 or 3 years for the last 125 years, reestablishing one government in South America. It's just, I think it's 45 times or something. I forget the exact number, but a lot of governments that we've intervened. It's not just the fruit factory, the Guatemala, the fruit factory or whatever. That was one of them, but we act like, oh, we got to go all the way back there. No, it's every couple of years where we're trying to trying to force some kind of regime change. And then we're like, oh, why are they so unstable down there? Well, maybe it's because we keep trying to change. We're taking away their right to autonomy. You can't just go invade in Venezuela because you don't like the leader there. And you can't tell Brazil that they can't prosecute somebody that tried a coup because you like them. Donald Trump is not the king of the world. He didn't get a mandate to rule the world. He's not an emperor. He's president. He's not even, he's gone beyond his constitutional limits just in America. But he doesn't have the right to decide who rules in Venezuela or Brazil or Honduras or wherever. Somebody needs to give him a spanking and set him down and tell him what his limitations are, because he has them, whether he wants to admit it or not. Which brings me to the next thing: the second strike war crime. And this is the thing about this whole Pete Hegseth ordered a second strike. So let me just first say the best case scenario is that this is just a war crime punishable by death, because then he only killed 2 people. All right. And you've got these MAGAs that want to have it Oh, well, it doesn't count as a war crime because there were foreign combatants, and it's like, dude, like, or FTO, they were a foreign terrorist organization. That is why okay, designating them as an FTO is what authorizes us to strike them. Whether they're actually a terrorist organization or not is a whole other thing that is highly, highly questionable and probably illegal. But even if you are, that makes them combatants. That's why we can strike them the first time. But once we strike, like, if we declare they're foreign combatants and that allows us to strike them the first time, then that means the rules of engagement then apply. And as soon as the rules of engagement apply, striking them a second time when they are shipwrecked and unable to fight back is a war crime. So if the first strikes are legal because they're FTOs and enemy combatants, then the second strike is a war crime. If the second strike doesn't count as a war crime, then the first strike was murder. And there's 83 counts of murder on Hex's record, because then all the first strikes are murder. You can't say that the first strike applies because they're an FTO, but then the second strike doesn't count because they're terrorists. Those two things are mutually exclusive. You either have to have them terrorists or they aren't terrorists. You can't have them the terrorists for the first strike and then not terrorists for the second strike. So the next thing I want to talk about, which is actually connected to all this, because the whole boat strikes thing is ostensibly to stop the flow of drugs, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, oh, we've got all these Americans that are dying of overdoses, and of course the numbers are hyperbolically inflated, and the solution to all these people that are overdosing is not blowing up boats. And all of that aside, and all of that, like, which I've discussed here before, but setting all of that aside, which is valid discussions, right? Like, I do not accept that these boat strikes are legal. I do not accept that they're smuggling in drugs. I don't think that bombing these boats means that it's going to stop drugs or that drugs aren't coming in here anymore. I don't accept that boats from Venezuela are bringing in fentanyl. Like, there's so many just inconsistencies in this, but it's like, if you talk to the MAGAs, they're just like, oh, well, I guess you just like 100,000 Americans dying every year of overdose then. So let's just talk about that, because in contrast, he pardoned a man named Juan Orlando Hernandez, or he promised to pardon Juan Orlando Hernandez, who used to be the president of Honduras. And he said it's because Hernandez was treated very unfairly. I don't know what unfairly means. But here's, in case you don't know, and a lot of people don't, because the news doesn't actually talk about this. They just cover things in 5-second blurbs. But here's the thing. Juan Orlando Hernandez was guilty of a lot of stuff. The investigation into him went on for 10 years. There was undercover operations. There were auto recordings. There were witness testimonies at his trial that included his own brother. He ordered people to be killed. There were ledgers that had his initials in them, like he initialed the ledgers, that recorded trafficking of cocaine. He was convicted of smuggling, or helping to have smuggled, over 400, what was it? I think, let me share my screen with you here. I created a little dashboard. So let me. Over 400 tons of cocaine for the Sinaloa cartel. And that cartel, by the way, was called by Merrick Garland the most violent cartel there is. And he said that this one it's the one that smuggles the most fentanyl. The drug that he's so ostensibly worried about was smuggled by the cartel when Hernandez was aiding. All right. Hernandez was aiding these suicides. There are at least 10,000 overdoses, at least 10,000 overdoses attributable to Hernandez. The cocaine, there are over 50 million doses of cocaine that he smuggled in. But sure, let's talk about how unfairly he was treated while he was having 2 journalists killed, or all the other people he had killed. He was not just some kind of tangential victim here. He was a key operator in the cartel. He didn't work. He wasn't part of the cartel, but he was like an ally that really, like used the government. He actually would order the military to kill the rivals of, sorry, getting some reflux here, of the Sinaloa cartel. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish, and I always mutilate these Spanish words, and anyway, so why, so I started looking into all this, right? And I'm like, if he is so worried about drugs, if he's so worried about this smuggling, then why are we even pardoning this guy, this drug smuggler? And then I started looking into it, and then there's this other dude. Okay. Cheng Peng Zhao. So one of the things Hernandez was found guilty of was helping to launder, or facilitating the Sinaloa cartel's drugs, right? He was helping, to get that in. Peng, or Zhao Cheng Peng, he was convicted of laundering money for the exact same cartel through Binance, his Bitcoin. So now I thought, well, that's interesting. He's helping out this same cartel as Hernandez, and Trump pardoned them both. So then I started looking into what is the connection between all of this? Like, is there another connection? And so it turns out that this Binance company is the one that wrote the code for the cryptocurrency that Trump's family has. And then I started looking at it more, and in addition to aiding with all the drugs, Juan Orlando Hernandez established what are called Zeeds in Honduras. So this is where it starts getting interesting, because I had never heard about these Zeeds. I know there are some people that probably have their more ear to the ground more on conspiracy theories, and this sounds at first like a conspiracy theory, but it's not a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact. This is actually happening, and it's terrifying. And if you don't know what it is, then you need to wake up and realize what it is. Because this woke me up. I woke up. This is actually terrifying. I don't care if you voted for Trump, if you voted for Kamala Harris, or if you voted for the Bugs Bunny. This should scare you. This is terrifying. Because what's happening is in Honduras, under Hernandez, they set up these Zeds, which they literally bought a physical island. And they're making what are called corporate city states, 3 corporate city states. And one of them is called Prospera. And the key investors to Prospera are all Donald Trump allies, the biggest of which is Peter Thiel, who, by the way, introduced J.D. Vance to Donald Trump, and who is not the architect of Project 2025, but his philosophy is the foundation for the entire thing. This is the man that said that freedom and democracy, can't go together. And so I just wonder what his idea of freedom is. I think his idea of freedom, he's like this libertarian nut job. And his idea of freedom is nobody can tell him what to do. And he can just not have to pay taxes or anything. So you've got these corporate city states that are being set up on this island, and the 3 of them are these Zeds, and one of them is Prospera. And that what they are is you can buy citizenship to those things, and then you can like bank out of those places, and those banks are all going to be crypto. They're these cryptocurrency banks where you can like buy and sell stuff with crypto, but you can only buy citizenship, right? So you have to be rich to go there. You can't just be some guy that's making 6 figures. You have to be rich. You have to be like super duper rich to buy citizenship there. And then it's like taxes are like 5% of your income, or something like almost nothing, right? Which is great if all you need to do is pay your little private police force for your own little independent nation that only allows billionaires there. So Hernandez is the one, when he was president, that set up this deal with the Honduras government so that, like this island could have autonomy. Well, the next president came along and said, no, this is really, really bad for Honduras. And so he said, this ain't going to happen. But Peter Thiel had already invested a bunch of money, and some of his buddies, which are all Trump supporters. And so they all decided that they were going to sue Honduras for, what is it? I think, let me... sorry, I can't. It's like $11.8 billion, which is like 2/3 of Honduras GDP, or a third of their GDP, 2/3 of what they actually generate in tax revenue in a year. And Honduras is already one of the poorest countries in the world. And so basically it's just going to destroy the country if this lawsuit succeeds. And the worst part about it is that this lawsuit was already dismissed by the Honduras Supreme Court, but they went and they refiled it in this international court that Honduras doesn't even belong to, that's going to decide whether or not Honduras can just be broken by these men, right? And so the guy, this Tito guy, that when Trump, tweeted out how he was going to pardon Hernandez, he also said endorsed a candidate for the Honduras election. And so when he tweeted out that endorsement, that's actually to the guy that is the Prozid Hernandez candidate. So none of this is about drugs. All of this is about disease. All of this is about Prospera and these corporate city states. That's what you need to realize. That's what we all need to realize. And we all need to start talking about. If the idea of a corporate city state terrifies the hell out of you, then you're in the right place. But if it doesn't terrify the hell out of you, then you need to wake up. Because what's going to happen is all these billionaires are going to start transferring all their wealth to these private islands and these private city states, and they're going to become citizens of these nations. And then all that wealth is going to be sucked out of all the other nations, which means basically the rest of the world is going to become paupers. This is the word that comes to mind. It's neo-feudalism. They want to turn us all into paupers. While they live like these rich, extravagant lives on their little private islands. And again, I know that how weird that sounds. I know how conspiratorial that sounds. But that is not something that I am predicting is going to happen. That is something they are literally trying to make happen right now. And the people that are doing it are all connected to Trump. And they're all connected through this whole thing that I'm calling a Gordian knot. Okay, so I made this chart thing. All right, so here's Peter Thiel. All right. He's connected to Trump. He's the one that introduced Trump to J.D. Vance and everything. He's good buddies with J.D. Vance. And he's invested in Prospera. And he's the one that actually was behind this lawsuit. Anderson is a big crypto guy. Okay? And he's one of the ones that's going to get a big chunk of TikTok. And he, after the election, talked about how much he was involved with Trump between the election and the inauguration. He's the one that was helping Trump set up his tech policy. So, think about that, right? So then you got so let's talk more about the cryptocurrency aspect of this. So this, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Siverson guy. He's another one that's invested in Prospera. He's also got his own little private island. I think he wants to use Prospera as like a like a experiment, and he's building his own island. I think it's off of like Indonesia or something. He's building his own little tech crypto island, his own little corporate city state. So like just imagine like the future, like where these corporate city states are, with their own little private armies and stuff like that. I don't know if you watch the Aliens TV series on Hulu, but I think it was on FX, but I watched it on Hulu. But anyway, where it's like you've got like 6 or 7 corporations that are basically running the world. That's what this is looking like. And it's not hyperbole. This is actually what they're trying to do. And these are some of the richest people in the world that are doing it. These are not like just nobodies. They're not just nut jobs. These are actually the richest and most powerful people in the world working together to like to consolidate their wealth and power even more. So the other thing that needs to be talked about is how the cartel, in this case, oh, yeah. The other thing about the cartel, the Sinaloa cartel, is this is the one, if you know who El Chapo is, El Chapo is, the one that kind of made Sinaloa what it is. That was his cartel. And yeah, sorry, Virgil, you forgot your apostle. You did your wrong. The war on apostrophes, it never goes away. So anyway, back to the cartel. So this Sinaloa cartel with when Trump has pardoned the people that laundered money for them, he's pardoned the person that was convicted of smuggling drugs for them. It also there was a guy, his son, when El Chapo died, he had like 4 sons that took, power, and then one of them was busted and prosecuted by Biden, or at least started to be prosecuted by Biden. And now Trump negotiated this kind of sweetheart deal with him where he gets 17 family members that, that are allowed to come over here and be protected by the, U.S. And basically, we don't get anything out of that unless, I don't know, maybe he's going to flip on somebody, but that remains to be seen. And it's like, how do you flip on somebody, downstream? But so Trump's DOJ made the deal with him after Biden's DOJ indicted him. So it's like too late, and who knows, maybe there will be a pardon at some point, because all Trump likes to do is pardon the people that actually are guilty. Like I was saying on Twitter, the U.S. is the one country in the world where if you're accused of a crime, you get a missile, but if you are convicted of the crime, you get a pardon. All right, so this whole cartel thing, they're tied into the cryptocurrency thing because the cryptocurrency is the easiest way to launder money. So you get this mesh of like the giant cartels and their money laundering, and you get the billionaires and their tax evasion. And you get them all on their little private islands where they have their little private armies. And the rest of the world can just rot. That's what everybody's always saying, oh, well, you got to keep your eye on the ball. This is just a distraction. I don't think anything is just a distraction, because I think all the other problems are real. I think that, like women not being able to get abortions is a real problem. I think that the mass deportations is a real problem. I think that, like the fascism is a real problem. All the other things are the real problems. But this is the most real problem that we're not paying attention. This is what we're being distracted from. Is this trying to coerce or to consolidate all the wealth and power in the world into like a few tiny corporate city states that you have to buy citizenship to get into. And Like, that's scary to me. It's scary to me. We need to like be aware of what's going on. So let me go through this. Okay, so the Zeds. I'll just go. So the key players are Peter Thiel. He lobbied Trump to select JD Vance as VP, and he invested in the Prospera Z project, major Trump supporter financially and politically. And, you know, to JD Vance too, I think he's more of a Vance guy than a Trump guy. So if there is a change in the White House, Peter Thiel's probably behind it. He's the big Vance guy. And don't forget, Vance is the one that like wrote the introduction to Project 2025 or something, or his best friend is, or something like that. Like there's this whole connection thing. Mark Anderson, he's the one that bragged about writing the Trump tax policies. He's invested in Prosperia, and he gets, along with Larry Ellison, the Oracle guy, they're going to get 80% of TikTok. Changpeng Zhao, he's the one that was the Binance founder. He got pardoned by Trump after he was laundering money for the cartel, which is smuggling in fentanyl into the United States. Juan Orlando Hernandez, I've talked about him. Olivia Guzman Lopez, that's the son of El Chapo I was talking about. And then Sam Altman, he's another Prospero investor who donated a bunch of money to Trump's inauguration fund. And then Srivinson, who's the one that's also invested in Prospero, but he's also got his own little thing. I'll drop this into the links. But this is a cool little map that I did that, you know, like you can click on any one of the things if you want to move it around and see what those, like this is all the, how everything is connected. If you don't know what a Gordian knot is, there was a legend that there was this really, really complicated knot that if you could learn to untie it, if anybody who figured out how to untie it, they would rule all of Asia. And then Alexander the Great tried to untie it, couldn't untie it, so he just cut it in half with his sword and said, okay, there, it's untied, and then he conquered Asia. So anyway, we just need to take our sword to this knot. So here's a timeline. So starting in 2023, Honduras repealed the Z laws. Then in April, Prospera filed a $10.8 billion lawsuit. 10.8, not 11.8. In November of 2023, Binance fined $4.3 billion. That was for the money laundering for the cartel that smuggles all the fentanyl into the United States. And I keep wanting, like, this is the biggest cartel when it comes to fentanyl. Every time a conservative or a Republican or a MAGA whines about fentanyl, ask them why Trump is aiding the smuggling of fentanyl into the United States by pardoning the guy that lets them launder their money, and why he's pardoning the guy that helps them smuggle their drugs. So in 2024, when Biden was still president, Guzman was captured in an operation that killed dozens and shootout. Yeah, this was like, there was like all kinds of DE agents that were killed, and like, these are like really, really bad people. So in April of 2024, Zhao was sentenced to 4 months in prison. I don't think the pardon got him out of prison. I think the sentence was done, but I think the pardon like takes away the conviction so that now he can like go back into laundering money. But I think that's still up in the air as to whether or not he'll be reinstated. So then in November 2024, Donald Trump won the election. Then he was inaugurated. And then just a few months later, Guzman got his plea deal where he was able to get his 17 family members over here with U.S. government protection. And then just in October 2025, Zhao was pardoned. And then, I don't think I mentioned this yet. Go back to the network map. Okay, see this connection between Zhao and Binance and Trump? All right, so what happened is that Binance, right after he was pardoned, announced that they were going to, were collaborating with Trump for this Trump coin. And he was getting like a chunk of this other coin. Anyway, long story short, Trump's made like $11 billion off of that pardon. Well, depending on the value of it at any given moment. But they wrote the code for his crypto. And he's getting all of this money because he pardoned the guy that laundered money for the traffic, the drug cartel that brings in fentanyl. But you're going to tell me he's like just, like killing people on the boats in the high seas because he's worried about fentanyl? Oh, and here's the other thing. Hernandez, remember I was telling you that one of the things that he was, that he did was he was just, like he created this illusion that he was a big anti-drug cartel guy. But then he was using the government to go after all of the rivals for what's the name of it again? The Sinaloa cartel, right? So he was working with the Sinaloa cartel. He was using the government to go after the Sinaloa cartel's rivals while he was supporting the Sinaloa cartel. All right. Guess what? Guess what all the 22 boat strikes have in common? All of them target rivals of the Sinaloa cartel. Not one of them targets the Sinaloa cartel. All of them just target their rivals. So, starts to sound kind of fishy, isn't it? So, isn't he trying to provoke Venezuela and get back at them? I'm not quite sure how Venezuela ties into all this, whether that's just one of his distraction things or if there's some kind of connection, but I need to look into that because I think that there's a distinct possibility that this has got something to do with all of this mess. Okay. So, this is like a timeline of how quickly he's accelerating all this stuff. And I just this is the reason I want to point this out. Notice how things are suddenly happening faster, winches. I think it's a good question about why is he, what does Venezuela have something to do with this? It probably does. And I wish that I could, I wish I were a journalist that had credentials, that I could ask questions. But unfortunately, I'm not. I'm just a dude in a recliner on a laptop. So anyway, this is another map. See if I can make that a little bit. This is another chart. So this is like a radiograph, and that looks at, some of the different aspects. This is looking at Peter Thiel, Mark Anderson, and Sam Altman, and how connected they are to Trump in different ways. As you can see, they're all pretty connected in different ways, but Like whether they're financial contributions or a tech policy, Trump support, like helping him write, how do I, like just through extra, like through supporting him through means other than than campaign contributions. So anyway, this is worth like looking at, but basically I just wanted to show this here. These guys are very, very involved with Trump on many different levels. They may not have much to do with each other necessarily, but they're all very involved with Trump. And these are the three guys that own the Prospera. And so that's the Zed corporate city states. So I mean, just think about that. Like, think about a corporate city state. This is the worst, scariest Stephen King novel that you could imagine. This is, and remember, this is they actually floated having reality show for winning a green card or whatever. Like this is like the Running Man in reality. I haven't seen the new movie, but the book. The Zeds are autonomous zones or charter cities designed to operate with private governance structures, their own legal systems, separate tax systems from their host country, private security forces, and business-friendly regulations. So just think about that. Like, who wants all that stuff? Everybody that's rich or doing something illegal. It's like the mob bosses and the drug cartels. They'd love to have like the cartel boss go and live in this private island where they don't have to worry about getting killed or executed or whatever. There's no indictments at these places. There's, none of these will have indictment treaties. This is just like a home, a little safe house for all the richest, most powerful, most evil people on earth. And they just have their own little corporate city states where nothing can touch them. And they run the world. So the World Bank Tribunal, that's the court that this lawsuit will be settled in, which may not matter depending on who wins the election. The election was held yesterday. Right now, the conservative, the Trump guy, Tito, he was barely in the lead, but the lead was closing, and there's all kinds of, everybody's claiming there's like 3 people that are all contesting for it, and it's kind of up in the air right now. But in a way, like I was thinking, this could be like the most important election of our lifetime, and we don't even know about it. Because if this goes through, and these, then the Tito guy will just reinstitute the Zeds, and then we just go down this corporate city state road. And I don't know how I can emphasize enough. I don't care if you voted for Trump or if you voted for Kamala Harris or if you voted for the Bugs Bunny. Like, this is like really going to affect you. This is going to destroy the world. All right. So now, cryptocurrency is digital money secured by cryptography and recorded in a public ledger. Its value is determined by what people are willing to pay for it. So the president, like, the thing about cryptocurrency is it has no real absolute value. It's just And I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like any other currency, like the dollar or whatever, which is why it can fluctuate. But cryptocurrency is much more fluid even than like regular currency because there's no underlying economy behind it. So sorry, got some comments here. It's crazy how everything Trump and his propaganda machine fear monger about is exactly what he's doing. It's just like everything he says is projection. Greed and power. Why can't we figure out a way to limit this among humans? We should know by now that power, money, entitlement, and never facing consequences are a recipe for human predators. You'd think. There needs to be repercussions at some point, right? Greed corrupts so many people. A little taste is all it takes for money. You know, like they're saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So Binance is a crypto exchange. It's the largest one. They were fined under Biden for the $4.3 billion, which gives you an idea of how much they were doing, right? That's a big fine. Then Trump pardoned them. Then after Trump pardoned them, there was still an ongoing investigation that revealed the cartel laundering. And Trump didn't care. No more action. They hosted cartel wallets moving drug proceeds. Platform ignored red flags despite anti-money laundering activities, specifically facilitated Sinaloa cartel operations. And the Sinaloa cartel is the world's largest fentanyl distributor. So this is why these corporate city-states that are going to be, operating off of cryptocurrency are so frightening. It's like, where is the best place? If you were a cartel boss, where would you want to live? Where nobody could ever punish you and where you could launder all your money? Might sound like a good idea, right? And so they would become untouchable. So this is just a contrast. Biden administration, $4.3 billion in criminal charges. Trump administration pardoned the founder, ignored the evidence of cartel money laundering. Stop telling me about how much Trump cares about fighting fentanyl. You don't fight fentanyl by aiding the people that launder money for the largest fentanyl contributor in the world. So this is just a chart showing, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much Trump did or Biden did positively to do for it, and then what Trump did against it, and then what he did at the end when he found out there was new evidence. You'll notice there's no bar there at all. That's because he didn't do a damn thing. Okay. So then, like I said, the Gordian knot, we need somebody to cut it, right? But just think about all of these things that are connected. The crypto connection. Binance facilitated the Sinaloa cartel. Binance founder Zhao was convicted and sentenced. Trump pardoned Zhao. Trump has personally invested in cryptocurrency to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. At one point, crypto was like 90% of his wealth. It's come down a little bit because the value of his current cryptocurrency came down. But there's like billions and billions of dollars that he and his family have in crypto. And we spent 3 years talking about the Biden crime family because Hunter Biden paid back Joe Biden because Joe Biden covered a few truck payments for him. And they were sitting there parading around this check like this $700 check or whatever it was, like it was some sort of smoking gun. But you've got Donald Trump literally pardoning this person that wrote the code that gave him billions of dollars, and you don't have a single peep from Comer, who couldn't shut up about the Biden crime family. But you got Donald Trump out there hawking pardons to the person who facilitated money laundering for the largest cartel in the world that traffics fentanyl. And then pardoning the guy that aided them in their trafficking, all within a month. But we don't hear a single thing about that. And while he's declaring these organizations, terrorist organizations, and just bombing boats on the high seas and facilitating war crimes. All of it's connected. That's why you need to see these Z's for what they are. All of it is connected. It's all comes together. You see it through this prism, and all of a sudden it makes sense. All of this makes sense. The Z connection. Hernandez established Z's with running narco states. Tech billionaires invested in Z's. Same billionaires supported Trump in his VP selection, in his policies, in his donations. Start looking into how much of this money that's going to his ballroom and his library and his inauguration come from these clowns. Z's ideal for money laundering and tax evasion. Like, you've got Trump pardoning money launderers and doing favors for drug cartels, which launder their money through the money launderers. And you've got him endorsing these Z's in an election, and pardoning the mayor, the former president that set up the whole Z thing in the first place. Don't tell me that this is just not some irrational rambling or something. This is pretty apparent. There's connections here. Sonoma is the world's largest fentanyl distributor. Hernandez facilitated 400 tons of their cocaine. Like, that's like, what was it? I think it was 13 entire, if you were to pack 13 shipping containers with cocaine, that's what 400 tons of cocaine would look like. Guzman oversaw the fentanyl operations. The guy whose 17 family members were brought over here for government protection. Yeah, he's the one that was responsible for the fentanyl trafficking. We're protecting the guy who is most responsible for the fentanyl trafficking, while we're bombing boats that aren't even coming to the United States and not even carrying fentanyl. Even if they're carrying drugs, those are carrying cocaine, and they're not carrying them here because they're going away from the United States. But we're going to bomb those boats. You know what they have in common? They are not Sinaloa. Even if they're drug boats, which again, I don't concede they are. I concede that they're suspected drug boats, but 75% of the boats that we suspect are drug boats actually end up being drug boats. 25% don't. So the chances of all the boats being actual drug boats, it ends up being like 99.7% chance that at least one of them was not a drug boat. We have killed innocent people. That's a statistical fact. Whether they're all drug boats or not is irrelevant. Some of them aren't. We have killed innocent people, and that's why we have a rule of law. That's why we have not just due process in our Constitution, but the concept of due process in international law, that you actually have to know and prosecute criminals. And drug cartels, whether Marco Rubio wants to call them terrorist organizations or not, are criminal organizations according to international law. Terrorism means something. Terrorism is a word, and it means that you're trying to achieve government change through violent activity, and that is not what these cartels are doing. These are not actual narco terrorists. You can call them narco terrorists. That doesn't make them narco terrorists. It makes you a liar. So you get people saying, "Oh, well, they were designated narco terrorists." By who? That doesn't make them a narco terrorist. If I say Marco Rubio is a potato, he doesn't magically become a potato. Calling somebody something doesn't make them that thing. They either are or are not that thing, regardless of whether you acknowledge it or not, regardless of what you call it. A cartel is a criminal organization, not a terrorist organization. By definition, by the meaning of the words, I don't care what Marco Rubio designated anything. But anyway, Trump seems to be dedicated to going after the rivals of the cartel that he likes, the one that is smuggling the most fentanyl into the country. Don't lecture me about how I don't care about people dying of overdoses. You don't care. If you're defending Trump in this, you don't care. So the political connections. Oh, wait, okay. So I'm sorry, back to this the cartel connections. Snow is the world's largest fentanyl distributor. Hernandez facilitated 400 tons of their cocaine. Guzman oversaw their their fentanyl operations. Binance laundered their drug money. Trump pardoned protected all of them. And Trump's boat strikes target Venezuela gangs, not Sinaloa. The political connection. Thiel lobbied for Vance as VP. Anderson designed Trump's tech policies. Anderson is set to receive 80% of TikTok. Altman donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration. All of them are Prospera investors and all benefit from Trump's policies. So the Venezuela boat strikes, all 23 of them were from boats that were of Venezuelan origin. The $4.1 billion that the U.S. government won't get from Binance now. The Hernandez policy, pardon, and the Guzman deal with Sinaloa. You got Hernandez connected to the Zeeds too, because he's the one that like literally set up everything. So it gets to be the exact structure becomes too complicated. That's why I say it's like a knot. There's so much overlapping that it's not as easy as just connecting this dot to this dot. It's like all the dots connect to all the dots. Sorry, Pumpkin. I was on the other screen, so I didn't see all your... So I'll answer this question. What do you think is going to happen to this country going forward? I'm feeling more hopeless every day. And I don't know what to say. I think I'm starting to see cracks in the Republican Party in this rallying around Trump. I think we're going to start seeing the difference between actual patriots and people that just call themselves patriots. And I think we need to see more of that. There are legitimate concerns here. And I really do wish that, like real journalists would pick up on this and would start looking more into it, because it just seems like there is way too much connected here to just gloss over it and say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. You've got the people that are most central to Trump. We've got not only that, we like concerns that even people that are, like Republican senators and stuff that are saying Trump is becoming too isolated. It's not just that he's in a bubble, he's in a bubble in a bubble. And the only voices he's listening to are these tech bros and oligarchs and drug smugglers that are just making him billions and billions of dollars. And like, if you find out, like, if it, like, even just the fact that he pardoned the founder of Binance and then made $11 billion off of it, just that one fact should have the entire media screaming. Can you imagine if Biden had done that? If Biden had pardoned, because guy was there, he was convicted while he was president, right? Can you imagine if Biden had pardoned him and then Binance wrote the code for Hunter Biden's cryptocurrency and then it was worth like $11 billion? Can you imagine how much Comer would have flipped his wig? Can you imagine the screaming that would have come from the House Oversight Committee? And, like you get, like Nick Martin, take your ass to bed, boy. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the MAGA response to these things, is not to think intelligently, not to come up with a rational rebuttal. It's just to insult people, because this is how they're programmed. They're programmed. If something challenges the way they think, they have a reflexive action to just attack, because it's like caveman thinking. Just start swinging clubs. Oh, don't attack me with sense. Like, grow up, Nick. Become a man. A man is not afraid to think. These are real things that are happening. You have the Secretary of War, and I use that incredibly ironically, ordering people murdered. And your concern is that whoops, I forgot to put up the right banner, but oh well. Your concern is me? Like, grow up, dude. Just grow up. Try and, like, just stop with the juvenile insults and actually think about things. Your mother would be proud of you if she, if she knew you were capable of thinking like an adult. And like he left. Too bad. So the Venezuela thing, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just about to get the right gangs, to go after the gangs, the Sinaloa enemies gangs. They're like the rival cartels. Use the U.S. military to get out the bad guy cartels. It's interesting. Why are you arranging this deal with Guzman? Why are you pardoning Hernandez? Why are you pardoning Chow? Like, why? Why? Like, why? Ask yourself these questions. Why? Why is he doing this? Like, really ask yourself. It's an honest question, right? It's a valid question. He is sitting there creating these deals for the largest smuggler of fentanyl into the United States while he's declaring war. And not just, like the boat strikes, but ostensibly this was the whole reason for the drug, or for the trade war with Canada and Mexico, right? Because they were letting all the fentanyl in. Why are you sitting there and taxing American citizens over fentanyl coming into Mexico, and then trying to facilitate fentanyl coming into the United States? I don't understand how you reconcile those things in your head if you're a MAGA. There is a conflict there. Can you stop thinking with your partisan rhetoric long enough to actually think about whether there's a there? Anyway, I think that's all I've got for today. I appreciate you guys. So I appreciate you. I'm glad I came across your channel. I subscribed. It's a breath of fresh air to hear from an intelligent man. Thank you, Pumpkin. That's what I call my cat. Well, I call him Pumpkin, actually. But anyway, and Punkin. So like you're my kin. I'm Pun, and you're Punkin. So anyway, all right. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you guys later. And so your cat, is that a cat in your bio, on your picture? I can't really tell from here. The cat in a cowboy hat. All right. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you online. Bye.